Welcome to Proven Sustainable Conversations, a collection of thought-provoking talks with Indigenous and Maroon people and their supporters to realize and challenge our conscious and unconscious colonized thinking and behaviors.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here with you today, and thank you for coming to be with us. It's a wonderful day and a wonderful place, and I have a lot of things I do. You know, I introduce myself commonly as an artist and a naturalist, but I'm also a phenologist. And if you're not familiar with phenology, phenology is the science and art of following the cycles of nature through time. And my mom and dad were phenologists, my grandparents, and throughout my life I've followed the seasons and the blooming of flowers and the patterns of migrations of animals all over Florida and the United States. And it has been a deep practice for me. And with all the different accolades that people might appoint to my beingness, I would say that at the very basis of all of it, I am an earth shepherd. I feel very called upon to be a spokesperson for the earth, and I teach and I share around how to help people form that connection in a deeper way. And you need not be indigenous to this area to feel the right to practice the spirituality of the earth. It's something that we all have in our ancestry, no matter where we come from. It's in our DNA. And when you find yourself in a blissful place in nature and you feel that connection, you can know that that's your given right. So I would like to lead us into a grounding exercise here. This will be based on the breath. And if you like, you can close your eyes. Just kind of relax into your breath. Just pay attention to your breath. Don't do anything special with it. Just observe the in breath, the out breath. Breathing in, I feel the nourishing power of this land, the soil, the sand, the rocks deep beneath the soil. Breathing out, I feel gratitude for the support and security of this earth. Breathing in, I feel the nourishing oxygen, the prana, the skan, the chi of the trees and the plants. Breathing out, I extend my gratitude to the plants and the trees and offer the carbon dioxide to them in exchange for the wonderful oxygen they're providing to me. Breathing in, I acknowledge my love for the animals of this land, the domestics, the wilds, the birds. I give thanks for this camaraderie of the animals with my out breath. Breathing in, I feel the warmth and fellowship of my brothers and sisters and my family of this permaculture community. Breathing out, I extend my love and gratitude to everyone in all places. Breathing in, I feel the connection to the substratum that connects all things and all places and all beings. Breathing out, I extend my gratitude to all things and all places, and intentions and visions of wholeness, healing, health, and happiness to all beings in all places. Breathing in. Breathing out. Aho Mitakiasi. For those who are not familiar, Aho Mitakiasian is a Lakota phrase, and it means blessings to all my relations. Anytime you hear Aho, that can mean a variety of things. That can mean an affirmation, yes. It also means listen up. I'm praying. Aho. And Mitakiasian is blessings to all our relations, which of course is all things, the earth, the soil, the rocks, the plants, the animals, all the people, the ecoregions and the watersheds.
Thank you. I hope everyone feels nice and grounded and attentive to themselves and their surroundings, and invite you over the course of today and this weekend too, as Tara said yesterday, to acknowledge, really take a moment and acknowledge the other life forms around us, and really the presence of the trees and the plants, and really give them due notice and appreciation in your own way as well. And extending from that, Johnny, I really want to go off of your introduction, and you stated right that you are really this earth steward, and you choose to use art, and you have some of your art here with you today. And I would love for you to speak to both the rationale behind why you use art and the importance to you of bringing in this spirituality aspect in your approach, and how that has also been informed by your heritage, your grandmothers, and I think, again, we can really get caught up in talk, right? And using our words and science and speaking to the seasons and what we need to know about the seasons and what to do to plant, and the fast nature of speaking to all of that. So I'd love for you to really share a bit about your heritage, your story, and the rationale behind your approach for all of us to learn from.
Thank you, Kelsey. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, at the substratum of everything I do, I'm an earth shepherd. I feel called upon to represent the earth. And my major vocation is to be an artist. I sell my artworks. I brought some here. I'll share them in a moment. But the art is really just a byproduct of my love for the earth. I don't paint exclusively for the sake of painting or trying to make money. They are authentic celebrations and revelations and realizations of my connection with the natural world, and which is infinitely expanding. I'm constantly learning. I do carry a lot of wisdom, but I feel like I'm really just a beginner. And I'm constantly being refreshed and revitalized by my observations in the natural world. And one of my callings is to actually help people to find their connectivity to the natural world. Some of us were born into it, but a lot of people were not. And so one of the ways that I do that is I use my art to help people find their identification. One of the things I've done is I've created a series of wildflower wheels. This is the Ichitucknee wildflower wheel here. Now this was created from years and years of observation of this ecoregion and determining indigenous wildflowers that bloom in each month of the year. So everybody has a birth flower at the Ichitucknee. Doesn't matter where you were born or when you were born, you have a birth flower indigenous to this ecosystem. And if you know when and where to go on your birthday, you can actually go there and marvel at your birth flower on your birthday. So I've done a variety of wildflower wheels because it's unique to each place. the wildflower wheel at the Ichitagni would be different than a wildflower wheel that I would do from this particular locality. And same for South Florida or further north. So I also do a lot of hand-rendered maps of ecoregions and physiographic landforms to show people where they're actually at on the land, because most of us don't really know where we are. We use modern man-made landmarks to describe our location. I live down this part of the highway, or I live near this shopping center, or whatever. It's this common language that most people use. But the truth is, there is some kind of uniqueness to the physiographic landform that you live on, no matter where you're at. And it may be buried under concrete, and it may be disguised by buildings, but it's still there, and it has a spirit.
Can you speak to, for a minute, how you came to this, again, you said most of us connect through a recognition of, oh, this part of the highway or this town. And so what has distinguished your connection to land that's distinct from that? What informed that?
Well, I believe that I was very contemplative from the beginning, and I often found myself out into the natural areas and just found myself relaxed and in a meditative state. And I remember when I was in my early teens studying the Beatles and learning about their time in India with the Maharishi and learning meditation. And I was always very curious about that. I thought, I would love to learn how to meditate. And I was already doing it. And I had no idea. It took a long time to find out that I had just instinctively arrived at that skill from being out in the natural world. But I think that being able to form relationships with places gives us a perfect insight into our own unique connection to sense of place.
Yeah. Prior to this conversation, you told me about the story where you'd go with your father, right, in the truck, and you had this really strong sense of place connection to indigenous artifacts. Could you share that story? I think would be really wonderful to hear.
So my dad recognized early on that I was different and that I had a very unique connection to nature. And we would play a game where we would get in the car or the truck and drive out into the country. Now keep in mind, this was some time ago, before there were laws about children in the front seat and car seats and this kind of thing. So I would stand on the front seat and we would drive into the country. And my dad would play this game. He'd say, all right, Johnny, tell me where to go. And I'm all of like 2.5. And I'd say, go this way, Dad. Go this way. Turn down here. Go here. That's it, Dad. That's it. Park here. And we would park, and then we'd go off into an orange grove or a forest or a lake shore. And 19 out of 20 of these places, we found Indian artifacts immediately.
Is this here in Florida?
Yeah. So my dad was real keen on getting me out into the natural world as frequently as possible and to cultivate these skills. And his mother, Rita, my grandmother, was born here in Inverness in 1889. She grew up with Black people that had lived with the Seminoles. And so she learned a lot about Native American place names and language, and also herbal medicine from plants in the wild around here. And so she was a very strong influence on my dad and on me. And I actually get my Choctaw ancestry from my other grandmother, who sadly was raised to never talk about Native American heritage, because at the time she was born, it was considered a disgrace. And she was told never to tell anyone about it. So I had to actually learn about that part of my heritage through some other people after she passed away. But she carried the qualities that are commonly associated with Native American people. She was very psychic, and she was very tuned into the land as well.
Thank you. Ooh, I love those stories. So you have other art here with you as well. So I'll give you space to speak to those too.
I have a strong connection to ancient Florida. This is a mastodon piece here. This is the Ichthyophilus about 20,000 years ago. I've also hidden 6 other mastodons in here that you can look for that are in different places. And I'm very interested in sharing the natural history of Florida because I think part of learning our sense of place here is to know, how did this come about? What is the sequence of events that would create something like Lake Chalaapopka out here? You know, what is the history of this? You know, it's so rich and beautiful, and it's an important part of our heritage. And of course, this is karst, lime rock. And so I use my paintings to teach from. This is another Ichthyophilus painting over here, and that's got a swallowtail kite perched in a cypress. You know, I didn't even think about it, but somehow I ended up with all Ichthyophilus paintings today. This is a view underwater, the springs. And all these paintings are available, by the way, if anyone's curious. So anyway, I love to teach from my art, and it also helps me in my own connectivity to these locations to do the artwork. It's a very sacred process.
And you were talking when you were even just in reference to your grandmothers and the process of your grandmother on your mother's side was taught that it was shameful to be Native American and to not speak of that. But you grew up witnessing her ways of being that had indigeneity still imbued in them, and then your other grandmother really sharing the knowledge that she had learned through Black Americans and the Seminoles. And I know you said, like, through your art and sharing that you carry on some of that knowledge and ways of being. And I think as we are amongst a collective here today, that we have some that do have direct, more near close direct connections with Indigenous communities, and others who may not. Want to make sure we touch upon, and we had some earlier conversations about this, and the topic of, like, cultural appropriation and how we, particularly you, find that balance of really encouraging people to connect to land and embrace and learn from Indigenous peoples, and that distinction of respect for their knowledge and ways of being. So I'd love for you to hear your insight on that.
So in this postmodern world, obviously a lot of cultural aspects are blending, and the mixture is inevitable. Having said that, there are certain ancient customs of the Native American people that are considered very sacred and should remain very pure. And I think it's real important that if we are to utilize authentic Native American ceremonies and practices, it's real important to learn from an authentic source and give it the proper honor and respect. But I don't think you have to study Native American practices to form a deep spiritual relationship with the land. You know, your heritage might be from Europe, or it may be from somewhere else. And we know that all of our ancestors at some point were ancient earth people. And we must claim that heritage. It's in us, and we have the right to form a connection to that and listen to the land. And the spirits of the land want to connect with us. It's a symbiotic relationship. And when the land spirits feel your kindness and they feel your intention and integrity, they will start to speak. It may take time, but the most important thing is to spend time out in the natural world to get quiet and really listen. You know, it's a hard thing to do in the modern era because we're so captivated by cell phones and computers and staying in touch with people. Even on walks, people are constantly on their phone, and sometimes that's unavoidable, but there needs to be time allotted for disconnection to the electronic devices. We really need to prioritize time in pure connection to the natural world. And it could be a park, it could be a preserve, it could be even in your yard. There's magic and mystery and miracles all waiting to be observed.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Actually, I'm curious, the question that came to mind in listening to you just say that now is, you said if you're really present and observing and the nature spirits really talk to you. And so I'm wondering, do you have any stories to share of that, a profound experience of that happening for you while you were observing and painting one of these landscapes or creating art?
Yes. Wow. I wouldn't even know where to start with that. Let's pull one out of the hat. Throughout history, in the last 1,000 years, primarily based in the European tradition, the symbol of the heart is something we all have become accustomed to. Now, apparently it was initially, amazingly enough, actually a pine cone upside down is where that symbol sourced from. And somehow ancient people in Europe figured out that there was some kind of connection between the symbology of the pine cone and the heart. And then eventually it turned upside down, and now we have this form that we see. So I started to see the form of the heart when I was young. There was a place in my hometown of Lake Alfred where I grew up, and it was my first land guru. I've had a series of land gurus who have been my teachers over the years, and each one prepares me for the next one. You know, so my first one was at the Mackay Estates in Lake Alfred, and there was a wonderful trail that went through the swampland, and there was a place where there was a heart that formed in the cypress. And so that always caught my attention. And then years later, I got connected to Horse Creek down near Sarasota, and I found an island down there that was shaped like a heart. And that ended up being my next land guru. And then later on, I discovered Ichetucknee, and I found an island on that river shaped like a heart. So, you know, there's ways for the universe to communicate through the natural world that are going to be unique to each and every one of us. There's no blanket way that's right or wrong. You have your own application. Your own essential nature has a signature, and if you learn how to identify that within yourself and then apply that to your connection to the natural world, amazing things will happen.
Thank you. Wow. Like that's new information for me too around the pine cones. I love learning the origins of some of these, again, words or symbols that we just use and see every day, and really contemplating the deeper histories behind them.
Could I implement?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, in the ancient wisdom traditions of Europe, there's a form of divination called scrying. Is anyone here familiar with scrying? Yeah. I believe it's spelled Scrying. So if you're not familiar with scrying, scrying is a form of divination where you just go out somewhere and look for signs and symbols and information. And you don't know how it's going to show up. You know, it could show up in the way the sand is patterned in the dirt road. You know, it could be the way that the trees are arranged. It could be the formation of the birds as they fly over. But scrying is a wonderful technique. It doesn't require anything other than pure presence. And you can apply it anywhere and in any way you like.
Neat. Thank you for sharing that. And we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure, of course, like we wrap up with, I want to say momentarily before we want to open it up to everyone here as well. But they can find more about your work. I want to kind of share your website or anywhere else they can continue to learn from you.
So my website is iamjohnnyDame.com. And I'm also on Facebook as Johnny Dame. If you're on Facebook, you can friend me. And I post a lot of artworks and a lot of observations on Facebook. And
there's a great video that's speaking to your process and art on your website.
Yeah, that's right. It's a little PBS documentary that was done on me a few years ago. That's on my website. You can check that out.
Yeah.
And
so I want to make sure that everyone's taking note. Or of course, Johnny and I will be here throughout the weekend
also, I didn't mention, but I do have these prints available of the wildflower wheel. They're $20 a piece, and they're signed. So if anybody's interested, please hit me up after this talk or anytime this weekend.
Yeah, check those out. And I know I've referenced the Proven Sustainable website. And again, we're recording this and aim to the quality is okay to publish that also on our podcast we have that's on Spotify or your main streaming networks. It's just Proven Sustainable. Also, you were speaking about the importance of disconnecting from digital devices and being present. I've just recently created a free e-course, like email educational course that you can find at digitalresetguide.com. And I actually talk about practices to heal and shift your relationship with digital devices and frame all of it within the colonization imperial frameworks and like how that's influencing the way that tech is designed and the way that our lives carry out electronically. So if that's of interest to you, I was just reminded of that as well. But as we open it up to questions, ideas, sharings, I know Juliana is here and is connected with Indigenous in Colombia. So I want to open it up, but I also want to start, actually, I've been asking the questions, so I want to give you a chance if you have any questions for anyone here or like to pose. Any questions coming to mind that you wanted to put forth?
I would just ask that you ask your own personal question. What is your favorite place in nature? And what's your relationship to it? And how frequently do you connect with that place? That's my question.
Very powerful question.
Love to hear your story. Love to hear any kind of ideas or questions you might have. And thank you all very much for being here. Aho, Mitakiyasin.
We hope you found this conversation insightful and thought-provoking. Please like and follow the Proven Sustainable podcast to spread the word and stay tuned for more engaging dialogues. Additional information and resources are available within the episode description and online at provensustainable.org.